I thought I'd post a follow-up video about what I eventually determined to use to carry my bikes. I'm a road cyclist, a cyclocross cyclist, and when I got my new GTI, I went for the natural thing that I'd always done in the past. I put roof racks on the car. But roof racks didn't work very well in this car for a couple of reasons. Number one, they leaked when it rained quite heavily. Number two, I lost about 10% of my gas mileage, which startled me, but I mapped it out and tested it multiple times over same routes, and yeah, I was losing about 10% of my gas mileage, at least at highway speeds. And number three, you could hear a substantial amount of wind noise, and the car at, shall we say, excessive highway speeds, the driving dynamics of the car had changed. So anyway, in the end, I went with a hidden hitch system, and I had it installed in the car professionally, and I went with the Thule 917 T2. The 916 T2 is for a 2-inch hitch, but the largest hitch you can install on this car is 1.25 inches. As you can see, here it is mounted on the back of my GTI. I did have one difficulty with it, though, before I show you this. Though the Thule website claims that it will fit this car immediately with a hitch, it did not, and I'll have to show you what I had to do. If you look at the inside front wheel carrier here, right there, I had to cut that because it would not fit on the car. The only other option I had was to extend the hitch out another 5 to 7 inches, but this would have decreased the tolerances and the hitch's capacity by 50%, which I wasn't willing to do, and it also obviously would have made it stick out further from the car, which I think is just inherently dangerous. Anyway, you just grab this lever down here and the entire hitch system pops down and clicks into place. And you can see we have two trays. Here is the uncut upper front wheel carrier, and here is the cut lower front wheel carrier on the inside. It's effectively just to get around this bumper here. The upper one sits up higher in this region, so it clears the bumper. Anyway, I really like this system. It works extremely well. It's extremely easy to load my bikes on and off. It holds my road bikes and my cyclocross bike and my son's mountain bike very nicely. The one thing that I also like about this rack is the fact that you can have bikes on it and fully open the rear of the car. You notice I'm pulling this pin down here. I can pull it, there we go. And what this will enable me to do, if I click this forward, I can, hold on, there we go. Let me pull back so you can see what happened. I could bend the whole hitch down, and that would enable me to have access to the rear of the car while there are bikes loaded onto the back of the carrier, which is very nice. As far as the car goes with the carrier on it, number one, I will definitely say that you can feel it. This rack in particular weighs 65 pounds, and you feel that 65 pounds in the rear of the car. It's out beyond the axles, and you feel it sitting back there. And you load it up with a couple of bikes, and you put somebody in the rear seat, like my son, and you really feel it. But it drives okay. You just have to drive it a little bit differently. Obviously, it's not an issue unless you're trying to do autocross, which you would never do in a scenario like this. Oddly enough, that was also one of the other reasons I got rid of the roof racks, because I started doing autocross with this car, and this is a great car for autocross, but it does not, you cannot do that with roof racks on. So I realized it was just a matter of time before I wanged my paint on my roof while I was attempting to remove the racks. It was a total bitch. This takes about 2 to 3 seconds to get the racks off. As far as security goes, what you will see is Thule is nice enough on this system to give you 3 locks. They give you 3 locks in the front, 1 lock for the front wheel holder, 1 for this funky cable. I don't know if you can see this. I don't know if I'm showing it properly. You can latch this around your frame. I'll actually load the bike up in a second and I'll show it to you. Latch that around your frame, and that requires a lock. And then there's a locking hitch pin underneath there, as you can see right there. Now the truth of the matter is you need 5 if you're going to carry 2 bikes. They give you 3. I mean, it's better than nothing. Thule normally never gives you locks, so I'm pleased that they gave me 3 to begin with. So anyway, let me break here, put a bike on the car, and I'll demonstrate some of the locking capabilities in a second. This is my Linsky titanium road bike, which has now been put on the carrier on the back of the GTI. The bike is principally held into place with 2 mechanisms. Number one, this arm right here comes down and pushes down onto the front wheel. And then in the back, we have a strap which affixes to the back wheel. And the unit, those two things together hold the bike relatively stable, actually amazingly stable. I'm surprised when you're at highway speed, the bike doesn't seem to move at all. As far as security goes, there is a lock on this, as I'd mentioned previously. There is this cable, which I'd shown previously, which loops out from that housing, comes around your frame, and then I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, and then there is a lock in there. So you effectively have the frame locked, and you have the front wheel being pushed down, but you could still make off with the front wheel because you could always use the quick release and take off with it. You could obviously still make off with the frame if you had a big enough cable cutter. And the rear wheel is totally unprotected now. So what I do is I take a cable lock, wind it around here through the frame and up to the front wheel if I'm going to be leaving the bike anywhere. And principally, I think it holds it in place safely enough that I can run into a store, get something to drink. Obviously, a titanium road bike is pretty expensive, and I can run into a store for maybe 10-20 minutes, and I think as long as the neighborhood is okay, the bike is going to be relatively safe. Let me demonstrate one more time bringing the bike down. I've got this pin out, and if I move this to the out position, you see that just all came down. Normally I would do that in a more controlled manner, but I don't have as many hands free as I normally would. And now, as you can see, that rear pulls up. So anyway, I'm extremely pleased with this system of affixing bikes to my car. If you want to put it back in the upright position, just lift it up, and you put this pin back in through here, and that will, there you go. Now the rack is secured again and ready for transport. I'm extremely pleased with this system, mainly because it's so easy to get it on and off the car. It doesn't really impede the car too much. I can autocross my car very quickly. It takes about 3 minutes to get the bolt off the bottom, pull the entirety of the apparatus out. So that's about it. If you have any questions, post them below and I'll answer them. Thanks. Bye-bye.